And good afternoon, everyone, or good morning if you're logging in from the West Coast. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Kim Elizondo, and I'm joined by my colleague and co-presenter Becky Whalen. And we're so happy that you're here, and we're excited to help you unlock your full doll's potential by sharing with you the variety of OT and PT assessments that are available to you through your digital assessment library for schools subscription. So I'm going to hop off video just to ensure we don't have any bandwidth issues, but I'll pop back on at the end of the presentation. All right, so before we dive in, I want to quickly walk through our agenda so you know what to expect today. First, we'll give a brief overview of the DALs and a quick review of the motor and sensory tools that are included in your district's DALs subscription. Then we'll move on to administration options and discussing the different ways that you can administer assessments through our web-based platform, Q Global. We'll give you a closer look at the assessments available through the platform, highlighting key tools and explaining how they align with different needs. Then after that, we'll cover some additional features designed to make the interpretation of the assessments and progress monitoring smoother with options such as growth scale values and item maps. We'll also share some information on available training and resources and upcoming webinars so that you can continue learning and ensure your team is fully supported throughout the year. And then finally, of course, we'll leave time for any questions that you might have. We do want to make sure that you walk away with all of the information that you need, so don't hesitate to ask any questions in the Q&A box throughout the presentation. We'll be monitoring that Q&A throughout. Since your district already has access to the Digital Assessment Library for Schools, or DALS for short, I want to briefly highlight how occupational therapists can take full advantage of this district-wide resource. So through the DALS, OTs have unlimited access to a library of over 40 assessments on Q Global. This includes key tools like the BOP3, the PDCAT, Sensory Profile 2, which support evaluations of motor skills, sensory processing, and functional performance. Because school psychologists, SLPs, and other clinicians in your district are also using DALS, having OTs on Q Global helps to create a shared platform where all clinicians can collaborate more effectively, share records, and maintain consistent digital documentation across disciplines. So an important note for OTs is that while psychologists and SLPs may use Q Interactive, which is our iPad-based system, OTs are really only going to use Q Global, and that's going to be for online scoring, online assessment, reporting, and administration as well. So we'll talk a little bit more about how OTs access and use Q Global on the next slide. Now, even though the DELS pricing is based on your district's IEP count, it can be used with any student and not just those with IEPs. So think about your initial evaluations and your re-evals, 504 plans, assessment for homeschooled or charter school students, etc. And then finally, of course, DELS covers all your professional staff, which includes, as we are talking about today, your OTs and PTs. So the OT and PT assessments for DALS are found within Q Global, which is our web-based platform. And Q Global supports both proctored and non-proctored administration. So particularly for assessments like questionnaires and rating scales, which can often be completed independently by parents, teachers, or caregivers. So some examples of assessments available on Q Global include things like the BOT3, Sensory Profile 2, the PDCAT. And for tools like the Sensory Profile and PDCAT, you can actually generate a secure link to email directly to parents or teachers, allowing them to complete the assessment online and eliminating the need to send paper forms home with students or through the mail. Now, in addition, Q Global now offers the option to digitally administer assessments like the BOT3 and the Bailey 4. So these tests include embedded digital record forms so that as you work through the assessment, you can enter student responses directly into the platform so that by the time you finish, all the responses are captured and ready to generate an automated score report, which saves you time and reduces any manual errors. Q Global has been a trusted platform for many, many years, and districts continue to find digital administration to be a convenient and efficient solution. In just a little bit, we will show you a brief video that demonstrates what this looks like when you're administering the bot digitally. So I want to take a quick look at the specific assessments that are included within DALS for this group. This image is taken from our DALS guide, and it's essentially an outline of the tools that are available for OTs and PTs that are included in our developmental library, as well as the speech and language and motor and sensory assessments. So I want to draw your attention to the yellow and red columns. In the yellow, it indicates what resources are included within Q Global. So if you go from left to right, the chart indicates whether some of the assessment can be administered digitally via on-screen or remote on-screen administration. Remote on-screen is going to be emailing that administration to a parent or caregiver. And then next is the scoring. So this means that scoring for the assessment is available in Q Global. Then you have your digital stimulus book and digital manuals. So these are digital versions of the resources that can be accessed 24/7 from within your resource library, which is highly convenient. You can access these manuals essentially anytime, anywhere, 24/7. And then last for the Q Global section is the printable forms and resources. So this indicates whether you can print a form to be completed in paper and pencil. So for example, with the sensory profile 2, if you had a parent or caregiver that didn't have great internet access at home, you can actually print this out and they can complete it by hand. And then the last column in red indicates the assessments that are also available in Spanish. So jumping into the assessment tools themselves, you'll first notice that the developmental library is comprised of a variety of early childhood assessments. One of the primary ones we'll talk about today for OTs and PTs is the Bailey 4. And then further down, you'll see a number of commonly utilized OT and PT assessments, such as the PDCAT, the new Bot 3, the MABC 3, and the Sensory Profile 2. Those are available in Q Global as well. Some districts also have a package called DALS Plus, and essentially DALS Plus is a way to expand your library and gain access to non-digital tests. So these are assessments that are delivered in the traditional paper and pencil format because they're not available for administration in a digital modality at this time. So for folks in a DALS Plus district, you also have access to the additional tools that you see here. The ones I want to call out for our OT and PT professionals are the Berry VMI and the Bot 3 Brief, as well as the Miller Function and Participation Scales, or the MFUN for short. The blue columns indicate the print and consumable materials that are included with DALS Plus, such as your record forms and response booklets. And then your yellow columns indicate your Q Global resources, similar to the slide we saw before. And finally, the DALS Plus package also allows districts the ability to purchase full kits at a discounted rate of 65% off of our retail price, which is a really great value and a great way to expand your test library for a minimal cost. So let's take a look at where these assessments fit into your routine. So to give some additional context, this is a little snapshot of where these assessments align within the Screen, Assess, Intervene, and Monitor framework. The DALS offers many assessments that fit into the Screen component to help you identify students who may require further evaluation and support. The assessments that you see here, the sensory profile, MABC, and the SpeedyCat, which is essentially a brief version of the PDCAT, those you can administer and score and report in Q Global. Some checklists and rating scales within Q Global have printable options as well, so you can certainly print off those forms for some of those. Now you'll see some overlap as we move into the assess component. And that's because we have brief and comprehensive versions of some of these assessments. So, for example, the Bot3 brief form, which is included for Dolls Plus customers because it is administered paper pencil, that was developed to address the need for a brief version of the bot. So it includes 20 items consisting of at least 2 items from each core Bot3 subtest, making it a great screening tool to determine if further evaluation is needed. Um, for full assessments to gain comprehensive insights into a student's abilities, the DALS offers the new Bot3, the MABC3. You'll see the sensory profile listed here again, the full PDCAT, and then also the Bailey 4, which is for children up to age 3.5. And it's frequently utilized to help determine eligibility for early intervention services under IDEA Part C. So for interventions, there are tools that have intervention planning tools integrated into the platform. Sensory Profile, for example, has an assessment and planning report, which helps you to gather information and help inform intervention planning. Same with the PDCAT. The report with the PDCAT helps with intervention planning, as does the Bailey 4. And then finally, you'll see several of our tools mentioned again as progress monitoring tools. So the PDCAT and Sensory Profile are great tools for progress monitoring, and the MABC checklist makes for a great progress monitoring tool as well. MFUN has some progress scores and to help you measure outcomes and track improvement. And the new Bot3 has GSV scores or growth scale values, and that's a great way to progress monitor and see how a student is showing growth and making progress over time. So the first assessment we're going to touch on today is the sensory profile, which many of you are likely familiar with. So through the DELS, you have access to both the sensory profile 2, which goes through age 14-11, as well as the adult adolescent sensory profile. So what the Sensory Profile 2 is it's a set of standardized assessments designed to evaluate a child's sensory processing patterns across home, school, and community settings. These tools help caregivers, teachers, and clinicians understand how sensory processing may be supported or interfering with a child's ability to participate in daily activities. So the sensory profile 2, it helps to identify sensory strengths and challenges, understand how sensory processing impacts participation in different settings, and guide intervention planning using neuroscience principles, sensory processing theory, and strengths-based approaches. There are some flexible options for different ages. So the sensory profile 2, it includes forms for infants, toddlers, and children, along with a short form and a school companion form. So together, these forms essentially cover birth through 14 years, 11 months. The questionnaires, they extend through, you also have the adult and adolescent version available for children that are older than age 14. So you would look at that one for the older kiddos. The questionnaires generally take about 5 to 20 minutes, depending on if you're administering the short form or the full form. And then the items have been updated and aligned across forms to improve consistency. There are cut scores with optional percentiles for a more detailed level of analysis. And again, you can administer this either paper pencil or online through QGlobal. The scoring can then be done manually. So if you do print it out and send it home, you can still score it through QGlobal. And then you can actually generate a comprehensive report to support your evaluation and intervention planning. The data was collected from a nationally representative sample, and it was also studied across children with and without disabilities. So that just helps to ensure that it can be used confidently with a wide range of children. So it's a really great tool to just get that complete picture of how sensory processing patterns influence functioning across environments. The next assessment that I'm excited to talk about is the PDCAT, which stands for the Pediatric Evaluation of Disability Inventory Computer Adaptive Test. So what this is it's a computer adaptive caregiver questionnaire designed to assess functional abilities in children and youth from age birth to 20 years, 11 months. It's a flexible tool used to evaluate children with physical disabilities, developmental delays, and behavioral conditions, and it's administered exclusively through Q Global because it is computer adaptive. So what the PDCAT measures is abilities across 4 key domains. So you have daily activities, which covers self-care tasks like eating, dressing, and hygiene. You have mobility, so that's evaluating both basic movement and navigating environments. There's a social cognitive domain, which assesses communication, social interaction, and problem solving. And then there's a responsibility domain. So that tracks how responsibility for complex multi-step tasks shifts from caregiver to child over time. The administration of the PDCAT is super efficient. It typically takes maybe 10 to 20 minutes. And thanks to the adaptive design, that tailors the questions based on the previous responses. Scores for this include age percentiles, T-scores, and scaled scores. PDCAT was last normed in 2020, so it's still a really new assessment, and it utilizes a nationally representative sample of over 2,200 children, plus a clinical sample of more than 700 children with disabilities. So that really helps us to ensure that it's reflecting a wide range of abilities and needs. So there's 2 administration modes. You have the Speedy Cat, which I mentioned is a great screening tool. So that's going to be a quicker assessment. And then you have the content balanced version, which is for even coverage kind of across all domains. There's also, interestingly, an autism spectrum disorder or ASD model. This includes revised items, adjusted scaling, and tailored guidance to help respondents rate scales accurately for children with autism. And then additional filters for age, gender, and mobility devices ensure that children only see the relevant items, and items use everyday language with illustrations to make them really clear for families or other caregiver respondents. And then finally, item maps show how skills typically develop over time, making the PDCAT useful for not only identifying delays, but also tracking progress, setting goals, and supporting ongoing intervention planning. The next assessment we'll discuss is the Bailey-4. This one also starts at a young age, covering children from just 16 days up to age 3.5 or 42 months. It's really one of the most comprehensive tools available for identifying developmental delays in infants and toddlers, and it evaluates 5 key developmental areas. So you've got cognitive, language, motor, social emotional, and adaptive behavior. So for OTs, the motor domain is especially valuable because it provides insights into fine and gross motor development, coordination, and emerging functional skills. The Bailey-4 also allows you to observe how sensory processing, motor planning, and early self-care skills may be developing, helping to contribute to early intervention plans. Caregiver input is what's used for the social, emotional, and adaptive behavior areas. This also helps to provide a fuller picture of the child's functioning across settings, and it can be administered either paper and pencil or via digital record form through Q Global, with the administration taking between 30 and 70 minutes, dependent upon the child's age. As this is a detailed assessment for small children, there's a number of engaging toys and manipulatives for this test. So those are required in addition to the Q Global administration. A starter kit of the manipulatives is available for purchase if you're interested in administering the Bailey-4. Also, Dolls Plus customers have the option to purchase the complete kit at a 65% discount and free shipping. So if you're in a Dolls Plus district, you can get a significant discount on that full kit. So to recap, with those updated norms, the streamlined scoring, flexibility to administer, one or all 5 domains, the Bailey's a really, really important tool for OTs and PTs working with young populations to help guide treatment planning and tailor targeted exercises and activities to monitor developmental progress. So one of the lesser known and newer assessments to the dolls is called the Movement Assessment Battery for Children, 3rd edition, or the MABC3. This provides a comprehensive measure of both gross and fine motor coordination skills for children and young adults. It's comprised of 2 parts that can be used together or independently, and that's the test, like a performance-based test, where the performance tasks are completed, and the other component is a checklist. So one of the key strengths of the MABC is that it can be utilized with students as young as 3 years old. So as you kind of move along this continuum, the sensory profile starts at birth, Bailey is 16 days, PDCAT is 1 month, MABC is kind of next on the continuum at age 3, making it a great option for measurement of gross and fine motor coordination in young children. It has a relatively short administration time, typically between 30 and 45 minutes. So it's a really, really good option if you're working with students who might struggle with longer evaluations. The Movement ABC covers 3 key areas. So that's manual dexterity, then you've got aiming and catching, and then balance and locomotion. And in addition to the performance test, the MABC3 also includes a checklist that can be completed by parents, teachers, the student themselves, or other key individuals who might know the student really well. This checklist is available as a standalone product, which offers flexibility if you only need to gather the observational data. It makes it a really nice addition to the dolls, especially in that it gives OTs and PTs an additional kind of arrow in the quiver, if you will, to assimilate these observations in a standardized way that can be scored and interpreted. Additionally, the checklist can be used to monitor change over time and measure progress associated with the implementation of interventions. MABC is available in print and digital formats, and it also includes a non-motor factors score, helping to account for factors that might influence performance but aren't directly related to motor ability. There's manipulatives involved, again, with the administration of the performance-based tasks. And for this, a starter kit of manipulatives is available for purchase, or again, Dolls Plus customers have the option to purchase this at a discount and with free shipping. So this one is just, it's a really, really great tool for identifying motor impairments, providing both direct assessment data and really valuable observational input as well. The last test we want to discuss today is the new BOT3. This is probably the most widely used motor assessment in the United States, and we recently released a new edition. The BOT3 is designed to measure a wide range of fine and gross motor skills, making it a comprehensive tool for evaluating motor proficiency in children, adolescents, and young adults. It can identify motor skill deficits in individuals from mild to extreme motor control problems. It's psychometrically sound, and it provides clinically relevant scores that are easy to interpret and explain. There's 8 core subtests and 1 supplementary subtest, which together provide an in-depth look at a student's motor abilities while also helping to identify areas of relative strength and areas where additional support might be needed. The BOT is appropriate for ages 4 through 25-11 and has fine motor subtests, including fine motor precision, fine motor integration, manual dexterity, and upper limb coordination. And then the gross motor subtests include bilateral coordination, balance, strength, and dynamic movement. Plus, there's an optional extended balance subtest for even more details. The administration time takes approximately 50 to 90 minutes, depending on whether you're administering the complete battery or just certain sections like the fine motor or the gross motor, for example. And BOT3 is available in print and digital formats as well. So you can do Q Global on-screen administration for digital and paperless administration, or you can do paper and pencil. BOT3 is often used collaboratively by occupational therapists and physical therapists, so it's a really great tool for interdisciplinary teams. And then bot three, it's really not for just the initial assessment. It's really valuable tool for goal setting and progress monitoring, allowing you to track improvements over time and adjust interventions as needed. And there's also a brief edition, which is ideal as a screening tool. Um, this one is administered just paper and pencil. The forms are included as part of the Dolls Plus add-on package. So if you are of a Dolls Plus district, you have access to the Bot 3 brief forms. This one is quick and easy to administer. It includes 20 items, consisting of at least 2 items from each of those 8 core bot subtests we discussed in the prior slide. And it takes only about 25 to 35 minutes to administer. So it really provides a quick overview of motor performance, makes it really great initial screening tool. And the quick administration time might also give examiners an opportunity to administer other tests, like perhaps the MABC checklist, in order to gain a broader view of the individual's skills. So MABC and Bot 3, they sound similar, but there's some kind of differentiators as to why you might choose one or the other. I would venture to say that more folks are probably familiar with the Bot 3, so I wanted to touch on a couple of key points. While the Bot has long been the go-to motor assessment, because it is comprehensive, reliable, and it's a tool that a lot of us know well and trust. It's really great for students who attend like mainstream school and have mild to moderate motor difficulties, but cognitive and language abilities are within the average range. It's also a great choice when you want to focus specifically on one motor domain, but need enough items to obtain a robust score. But there are situations where MABC might be a better fit, either in place of or in addition to the bot. So the age range is something important to consider. Bot covers age 4 to almost 26, and all age groups complete the same tasks. So sometimes that can be a little too challenging for younger children to get an accurate picture of their abilities. So in those cases, MABC 3, it has 3 distinct age bands, with each age band administering developmentally appropriate tasks. So that might be well suited for younger children who might struggle too much with the bot items. It can also be a good option for children with cognitive or language challenges, or for those who struggle to sustain attention because of the shorter administration time. And there's some flexibility with the instructions. It allows for a little bit more adaptive testing experience with the MABC as compared to the bot. And again, one of the biggest advantages of the MABC is the checklist. So, it helps you to assess those motor challenges, how they impact everyday functioning, and it provides real world context to supplement formal test scores. So it's a great way to get information about what's happening in the examinee's life outside of the school setting where you would normally see them. So even if you administer the bot or something else, you might use that MABC checklist alongside to get a really complete picture of the student's motor functioning across settings. And again, it's really great standalone tool if formal testing isn't possible. So I would highly encourage you, if you are a Dolls customer, you have access to the MABC checklist, go check it out. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about Bot 2 versus Bot 3 because we do want to talk about some of the additional assessments and advantages available in your Dolls account. But basically, we've extended the age range. And one of the things that I really want to point out is one of the significant areas of feedback from customers that was considered when revising the bot was that it took a long time to administer. So to help save time, the second trial has been removed in the newest version, and a few new items were introduced in order to better capture both lower and higher abilities. So it's led to a considerable time savings over the bot 2. There's some updated manipulatives. The shuttle run distance has been reduced to 30 feet, so it requires less space. And then the balance beam is not required anymore unless you're going to give the optional extended balance subtest. And you can actually use your Bot 2 beam if you're going to do that. So it's one less thing to have to carry around. And then the short form has been removed. For quick screenings, you're going to want to use the Bot3 brief. So some of the advantages to Bot3 is that it offers more flexibility when it comes to administration and scoring, and then it offers 3 new supplemental scores. So you've got a skilled manual performance score, which focuses on fine motor precision, integration, and dexterity. You've got a planning and coordination score, which highlights tasks requiring motor planning. So this is particularly useful for identifying like DCD. And then the movement fundamental score, which is a criterion reference measure showing where the student falls on the continuum of fundamental movement skills. That's something that's really relevant, especially for like adaptive PE teachers and educational teams. Okay, so now that we've provided an overview of the bot, we're going to give you a little bit of an inside look to the Bot3 administration on Q Global, as presented by our product manager, Melinda Cooper.
As you'll see during the following demonstration, using Q Global for digital administration, scoring, or both has several advantages over traditional paper and pencil.
Hey, Kim,
Q Global
I think that the video...
Time. When you enter raw test data into the platform, the system will calculate all the different score types for you with a single mouse click, meaning you no longer have to spend time looking at norm tables. Q Global also generates a narrative report that provides a summary of all the scores, which you can use to get a head start on your report writing. Having the scores calculated for you automatically minimizes the likelihood of errors. When you use Q Global for administration, you don't need to use the administration easel because all the information you need as an examiner is built into the platform. You also won't have to use the norm tables, so you can leave your examiner manual at the office. Going digital can save you money as you only pay for what you use. Unlike paper forms, Q Global usages are impossible to lose or damage, and they never expire. You only consume your usage at the point where you generate a report, and you can buy as many or as few at a time as you like. Let's now take a look at how it works. The first step to log into your Q Global account and select an examinee, then assign the assessment. You can find the Bot3 by typing it into the search box or add it to your favorites to save time. You then have the choice between either manual entry or on-screen administration. Manual entry is only for use when you've already administered the test using a paper record form and you just want to use Q Global for scoring. This option was also available with the Bot2, so it's not new. What I'm really excited to show you is the on-screen administration option, which is new for Bot3. So let's launch the assessment and take a closer look. The test will launch in a separate browser window and you will see this screen. Along the left-hand side, we have our navigation menu, which will let you skip straight through to specific parts of the test as needed. You'll see at the top there is a link called Guidelines, which takes you to the testing guidelines. These include information about what materials you'll need, how to prepare the testing environment, and how to most effectively use on-screen administration. There is also a section where you'll record the examinee's hand and foot preference, just as you would do on a paper record form. Then it's simply a matter of working your way through whichever parts of the test you want to administer. Let's have a look at item 1 of the upper limb coordination subtest as an example. You can see on the left-hand side, we still have our navigation menu, but if we want a full screen view, we can make that disappear by clicking this menu icon in the top left corner. This screen is like your administration easel and record form rolled into one. Almost all the information that you would usually find on the administration easel is here in these collapsible sections. To read what's in each section, simply click on the arrow beside it to open it up. When you're done, you can click the arrow to collapse it again to help you keep your screen uncluttered. The headings of each collapsible section are self-explanatory. Alongside the equipment and procedure information, you also have a scoring section that describes what the examinee needs to do to obtain a full score and types of errors for the examiner to look out for. The teaching section provides points to emphasize when teaching the task to the examinee and tells you how many practice trials are allowed, if any. The task diagrams, examples and photos section provides pictures that show you what the task should look like, including instructions about start and stop points. Anyone familiar with the print administration easel will know that the pictures are also shown on the examinee's side of the easel to help them understand the task as needed. When using on-screen administration, you can use the item picture book, which is available in both print and digital formats to show the examinee these pictures. If you continue scrolling down the page, you'll see the administration section, which is open as a default setting. Text that appears in blue, bold font is your standardized script, and underneath is a space to record the raw score. Unlike with the paper record form, there is no need to then convert the raw score to a point score. Here's one of the most exciting new features of on-screen administration. Scrolling down further, we come to the demonstration video, if one is available for that item. When you press the play button at the lower left corner, the video will begin playing within that same screen. This makes the videos very easy to use. All items in subtests 4 to 8 and the extended balance items have demonstration videos. There are also videos for select items from subtests 1 and 3. No videos are provided for subtest 2, fine motor integration, as these tasks require copying rather than imitation. Some items, such as this example from the balance subtest, are timed. For these items, you will find a timer underneath the administration section, so you don't need to juggle an additional device. After administration, you will need to manually type the score into the score box below it. Once you're ready to move on to the next item, you can either click on it in the menu or scroll to the bottom of the page and click the forward button. Q Global will save any data that you've entered. Notice that there is an option to flag an item for review later. Ticking this box will flag the item in the navigation menu, so you can easily identify it again later. At the bottom of the navigation menu, you'll see Appendix B, which contains optional teaching text that you can use when teaching the test items to the examinee. As this is optional, it doesn't have to be used verbatim, and you might choose not to use it at all. There is also space to add background information and record any behavioural observations you'd like to note. Lastly, you will come to the review section, where you can submit the results by clicking the forward button. Please note that once this button is clicked, you won't be able to go back into the on-screen administration. If there are items left to review or administer, do not submit the responses. Simply close the browser window. To return to the assessment, you can go back to the assessment details page in Q Global and relaunch the assessment when ready. Some of the Bot 3 fine motor items need to be scored by hand after the test is completed, with some requiring a scoring overlay. All of these items are administered using the paper response booklet and folding paper pad. Here's an example from subtest 1, filling in shapes, which requires you to compare the examinee's performance against a set of scoring criteria to determine the point score. It's not appropriate to do this while you're administering the test, as it would disrupt the flow of the session. You will see for this item, there is nowhere to enter the score, but instead a note to remind you to use the scoring guidelines, which can be found in the Bot 3 restricted folder in the Q Global resource library. Once you've completed the scored items, log back into Q Global, open the examinee's assessment record again and click on the Subtest tab. You will now see spaces where you can enter the scores. Once you've submitted the assessment, you'll be able to generate a report and see the standardized scores. Q Global provides two different reports, a score report and a caregiver letter. The score report includes all scores that you've elected to include, as well as a brief narrative that describes each subtest and provides basic interpretation of the results. The caregiver letter is much shorter and consists of narrative text describing the areas assessed and scores achieved in layman's terms. Sample reports are available to view on the Bot 3 product page on our website. Hopefully this quick demonstration has given you a better idea of how you can use the Bot3 on-screen administration to streamline your assessment and make your working day a little easier. I'll finish with a few helpful tips to optimize your digital.
All right, so for the sake of time, we are going to move on to the next couple of slides, which are about growth scale values. So one of the key benefits to the new Bot3 edition is the introduction of growth scale values, or GSVs, to the assessment. So we thought it would be beneficial to spend a little bit of time discussing GSVs and why they're impactful for measuring individual student progress. So let's start with the review of two common ways we interpret standardized assessment scores: standard scores and percentiles. So standard scores compare a student's performance to a normed group, typically their peers of the same age or grade level. And these scores follow a normal distribution with the average set at 100. So if a student receives a standard score of 100, it means that they're performing exactly at the average level for their age or grade. And a score above 100 indicates stronger performance, while a score below 100 suggests lower performance compared to the normed group. Percentiles tell us how a student's performance ranks relative to others. So instead of giving us an absolute score, they show what percentage of students scored lower than the given student. So for example, if a student is in the 60th percentile, then that would mean that they scored higher than 60% of their peers, but 40% of students still scored higher than them. So we use these measures because standard scores and percentiles allow us to compare students' abilities to their peers in a meaningful way. So in schools, these scores are often used for eligibility decisions, such as determining whether a student qualifies for special education services or gifted programs. And additionally, they help track overall progress and identify areas where a student might need additional support. Now, while standard scores and percentiles provide valuable information, they have some key limitations, especially when it comes to tracking student progress over time. They're not always ideal for tracking individual growth, right? They're relative. A student's standard score can stay the same even if they've made improvements. And that's because standard scores compare students to a normed group. And if that group improves at the same rate, the student's score may remain unchanged. And then they don't measure absolute growth. So for example, if a student has a standard score of 90 at the beginning of the school year and still has a 90 at the end of the year, it might seem like they didn't improve. But what if they actually learned a lot and they increased their skills? This growth is not reflected in standard scores or percentiles. So how do we accurately measure students' progress over time? That's where growth skill values would come in. So growth skill values offer a better way to measure true progress. So GSVs are raw performance scores that increase as a student improves. So unlike standard scores, which are based on comparison to peers, GSVs measured a student's actual skill development. And the key advantage of GSVs is that they're absolute, meaning that they increase when a student's performance improves, regardless of how others perform. So why are they useful? They allow us to track a student's progress over time, even when standard scores remain the same. They're more sensitive to small changes in progress, which can be especially helpful for students receiving interventions or special education services. They help clinicians make instructional decisions by identifying whether a student is making meaningful progress. And in short, they give us a clearer and more accurate picture of how an individual student is improving over time. So here are our examples. We're going to show you the process of administering and re-administering a test and comparing the growth skill values from time 1 to time 2. And this is really where it clicked for me in showing that these are useful. So this is our first example. It shows both a growth scale value and scaled score increase. So for test 1, they got a scaled score of 3, and then test 2, they got a scaled score of 4, and their growth scale value also increased. So it shows that for the growth scale value that their skills have improved relative to past performance, but then with their scaled score, there was improvement at a faster rate than peers. Example 2 is growth scale values increased, but the scale score is unchanged. So on paper, if you're just looking at the scaled score, it might not look like they showed any improvement, which might not be the case because they're just being compared to their peers with the scaled score. So here you can see the scaled score or sorry, the scale score decreased, but there was no change in their growth scale value. So for their growth scale value, skills have not changed relative to past performance, where there was a slight decrease in their scaled score, saying that their skills have declined relative to peers. I was looking at the wrong slide, but this is what I was referring to. This is where the growth scale values increased, but the scale score remained unchanged. This is kind of a game changer for clinicians who are trying to prove that their student is in fact showing progress and benefiting from therapy. When they're compared to their peers, their skilled score might not have reflected any growth, whereas you can see that growth in their growth scale value. You can see that it was higher from test 1 to the second time that that test was administered. And then same thing here with example 4, you can see a growth skill value increase, but a skilled score decrease. So here you can see that the child's actually making progress, but they might not be making as much progress as their peers when they're compared to peers. It shows a slight decrease in that scaled score. So this is a good way to show that students are making progress despite what their scaled score might reflect between two administrations of some of the tests that we offer. So here are the assessments that have GSVs. The BOT 3 has growth scale values. The BOT 2 did not. So this is a nice improvement with the new release of the BOT 3. Some of the other tests that have growth scale values are the Bailey 4, the MFUN, and the Vineland 3. Now, one of the other unique features we wanted to share with you today are item maps. Now, these are a valuable feature found in some standardized assessments, including the PDCAT, which can be administered on Q Global. So these maps actually provide a visual representation of test items arranged along a continuum of difficulty, from the easiest to the most challenging. Each test represents a specific skill, and the map shows where these skills typically emerge based on developmental expectations. So in the PDCAT, item maps are automatically included in the score report, helping therapists see which skills the child has already mastered, which are emerging, and which might need more targeted intervention. And for therapists, item maps are particularly useful for identifying both strengths and areas of need, making it easier to set developmentally appropriate goals and plan targeted therapy activities. And they also help track progress over time, showing how the child's abilities evolve across multiple assessments. And by combining quantitative scores with a clear visual roadmap, item maps make the PDCAT a really powerful tool for developing individualized strength-based intervention plans. So to recap, here are a number of assessments included in the Digital Assessment Library subscription to help address various areas of concern often encountered and supported by OTs and PTs. I'll give you a minute. I'm not going to read through all of these, but I'll give you a minute to take a screenshot or snap a picture because this is I found to be a really easy reference to go off of for our OTs and PTs. Okay, moving to the next slide. Here are a couple of the goals that OTs or PTs might have against what our tests offer. It's just a chart that you can reference. And again, I'll give you a quick chance to take a screenshot of this. Okay, moving on. I also want to take a moment to highlight some of the training options available through Pearson assessments, which are designed to support you at every level, whether you're looking to just get started with a new tool or you're looking for more advanced training. So for most assessments, including the BOT 3 and the MABC 3, we offer complimentary, kind of like a tier 1, if you will, training. This is a great way to get a basic overview of the test. So when you visit pearsonassessments.com and search for the product that you're interested in, you'll find a complimentary training tab. And this gives you access to a 45-minute to 1 hour on-demand training that covers the fundamentals of administration, scoring, and interpretation. We also offer per user training. So if you're looking for more in-depth training, we have live interactive webinars that run for about 3 hours. And these trainings provide a much deeper dive into administration and interpretation. And they're perfect if you want to go beyond the basics. And then we also have group training options for larger teams. We have live webinars or on-site trainings for groups of up to 40 people. And these sessions can be more customized to meet the needs of your team, whether you're focusing on one specific assessment or looking for training across multiple tools. So here on this page, we've included a QR code, which takes you directly to our training options page where you can explore everything available. And we'll also share a direct link at the end of today's session so you have access to more information. I'm going to ask that Kim drop that link into the chat right now. And we've also hosted 3 webinars that are focused on motor development and related challenges. And these recordings of these free webinars are included at the QR code provided. They include understanding motor challenges and ADHD, understanding age-related changes in motor performance, overlapping motor features of autism and developmental coordination disorder across the lifespan. And in addition to these past webinars, we also offer an OT focus session, which is a 45-minute conversations with our product management and research and development teams. And that's designed to gather feedback directly from our OTs and PTs to help guide future test development. So we would definitely like you to come on board, give us your feedback, share what some pain points are. It's a really good opportunity for you as clinicians to share how things are going and what you're using to guide and inform our decision making here at Pearson. And we also have some upcoming CEU webinars focused on autism and ADHD with dates to be posted in that same QR code once they are available. All right, we are going to open up some time for questions. But while we do that, I'm going to post in the chat some of the helpful links that we have. This QR code shows it gives you access to your specific assessment consultant. So if you have questions about any of the tests that we reviewed over today, you're not sure what might be included in your subscription, reach out to your assessment consultant. It's our job to help you. We can set up an additional consultation. We can meet with your team, and we can also answer any individual questions that you might have about our tests. If we don't know the exact answer, then there is someone within our company that does, and we can probably find that person for you. So thank you so much. I am going to start going through that Q&A with Kim. So if you'd like to stay on, please feel free to do that, and we will we'll continue to answer any questions that you have for the remainder of the hour.
Okay, and for whatever reason, I wasn't able to drop the link for the training, so I'm dropping that in now, made some adjustments, so sorry about that. But that link is in the chat, and if there are any additional questions, we'd be happy to answer those. Becky, I don't know if there were any questions that you had seen that might make sense to address to the group.
Yeah, there were a couple of questions that I had answered earlier and noticed some patterns. Just to clarify, for the bot 3, and what you guys get with your subscription to the digital assessment library. If you currently subscribe to dolls, and you are interested in administering the bot 3 on Q Global, you get that online digital administration included in your digital assessment library subscription. And you get free protocols with your doll subscription as well. So definitely reach out to your administrator for those free response booklets that would come with your doll subscription. Now, the only thing that you would need to order in addition to administration of the test on Q Global would be the manipulatives. They are different from the bot 2, so they'd have to be ordered. Now, there is an option to order just the manipulative kit. So if you are a dolls only subscriber, that's probably the best pathway forward. Now, if you have dolls plus, you're able to order that full kit at a 65% off discount, which is actually more cost effective than just ordering the manipulatives kit. So we would recommend doing that, but definitely reach out to your representative for assistance with that. They'll be able to help you with a quote, making sure that it's discounted if you have Dolls Plus, or help you find that manipulative kit online. There's questions about the MABC checklist. You're certainly welcome to go onto your Q Global account right now to look at that MABC checklist. You'll be able to find the stimuli there, as well as the MABC manual that will give you more information. I'd also encourage you to go to the MABC product page on pearsonassessments.com and sign up for that complimentary training, which will give you more information on that MABC checklist.
So to kind of expand on that, for the MABC, for example, if you go to our product page at pearsonassessments.com, there's some tabs on there. There's actually a complimentary training that you can access. You would just register for a Brainshark account. You can get that complimentary training from our website. There's also some recorded webinars. For example, there's a webinar that is about kind of comparing and contrasting bot 3 and movement ABC 3. There's another one that's sort of an overview introduction of MABC 3. And then the same for the bot. There's an overview of the bot 3, again at pearsonassessments.com. If you just search bot 3 and then navigate to the webinars tab from the product page.
There were a couple of questions that had come up about administration of the Berry VMI. Now, the Berry VMI is a print-only assessment. We don't have any digital tools available to either administer or score that test at this time. So one of my colleagues wisely calls Dolls Plus Dolls Print. So if you have Dolls Plus, you get a pretty significant discount on that kit, and you would get free protocols for that kit because it's a print only kit. So you would get access to administration of that assessment with Dolls Plus. But if you have Dolls only, only Q Global, then you would not have access to that assessment.
And then there was a question that says, with the digital scoring, are you able to just complete the fine motor composite without the gross motor composite? Wondering if it will provide a final score without the other subtests. I do believe that yes, you can. That's why it was built in that fashion. The PDMS 3, that is actually an assessment that Pearson distributes. And so since that is a distributed product, we are not able to offer it as part of the digital assessment library at this time, because the DELS has just our Pearson published products, with the exception of We have an MHS portfolio, which currently includes the Connors 4 assessment, and we are soon adding the ASRS assessment to that MHS as well, but that's an add-on package that is available for DOLS customers. And would just the VMI show up if we had DOLS Plus? I'm not entirely sure the context of the question. The Berry VMI, since it is a paper and pencil administration, you would need to, you have access to those forms through your DOLS Plus at no additional cost.
There was a question about if the VMI was if the VMI it just shows up if you have Dolls Plus. Again, since it's not available digitally, it will not show up. It would have to be ordered. So you definitely can order it through your assessment consultant at a discount if you have Dolls Plus. But if you have just Dolls or Dolls Plus, it will not show up on your Q Global account. All right, and I
Right,
think
and
that
we are
includes. Yep, go ahead, Kim.
overtime. Yeah, I was gonna say we're overtime. Sherry, do you want to close us out?
Yes, I want to shout out a big thank you to Kim and Becky for sharing your expertise with us. Thank you for participating in our webinar. Please leave your browser open as action items list will pop up. Look for your certificate probably within the next couple of days via email. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and this does conclude the webinar.